Sup everyone, welcome back to another video, and today, yes, we have Amber on screen here, but I'm just trying to ease us into this topic, right? You know who we're talking about today, roughly, but take a quick glance at how many 4-star characters we have in the game. Really, like, if we slowly scroll up, you'll see they likely rival, if not exceed, the 5 stars. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact numbers. I can count it for you right now. Maybe I will count it for you and throw it up on screen. Maybe that's better. I'll just have 4 stars, 5 star. But my point here is that when it comes to quantity of characters, there's really no shortage of 4-star characters. However, if you're to look at most tier lists, you can cross-reference, you can look at CN tier list, it doesn't matter, but chances are you're going to see a vast majority of the really strong ones centralized down around in this area. I'm sure there are some other 4 stars that are just strong, but none of them quite really reach that level. I mean, Diona is a really solid 4-star character, Yunjin is a very unique character, and now fast forward to Kuki Shinobu being a very solid choice among the dendro meta. Kale, some people would say, is pretty nice, and then Fadozan for the Wanderer and Zhao mains. Then we have YaoYao, right? But before we get into YaoYao, my point here is that there's a ton of, oh yeah, and we have Rosario, of course. But my point here is that there's a ton of 4-star characters that just kind of misses the mark, right? Characters such as Toma when he first came out. Now, I do know that Toma nowadays is pretty widely used, but it's just like what I was saying with the Dehya video yesterday. Like, can it really be justified to say, oh, a character comes out and waits for an entire year before they start seeing some usefulness? I really can't give YaoYao this much credit. I usually say, oh, they have a lot of stuff planned, but I really don't think they plan for Toma to have a resurgence of this level currently in the meta. I don't think he was at the top of their list when they were designing Dendro and oh, we can like bring Toma back. I just don't think so. But it happens, and these things happen. Now we can talk about YaoYao. Now, most people would say YaoYao is a very good character, most people who have played her, right? But does she break out from the mold of the good but not great 4-star characters? So, characters that are good but not great in terms of 4 stars, I would say someone like Rosaria, good but not great, right? Someone like Diona, around there as well, like borderline passes that barrier. I think Diona is probably one of the better ones in the 4-star category. Even nowadays, a lot of people still rely on her, especially if you can get her to higher constellations. EM is always, an amazing thing to have, especially in modern Genshin Impact. Kale, another good, solid character. I think when we're talking about top 4 stars, nowadays Kuki Shinobu would definitely be atop a lot of people's lists. Yunjin, Goro, these are specialized 4 stars. Same with Kujo Sara. So these are all decent 4 stars. And then we move down to the subpar ones who kind of really has fallen out of touch with how people play the game. Jinyan, Chongyun, to a certain degree. I think even like Noelle, Kaya, I want to say Razor, right? These are all people who kind of slowly got phased out because there are such better versions of either characters in the same category as them being 4 stars. In Kaya's case, there's amazing 4-star characters that can provide a lot of prio application in the case of Rosaria. But if you want to say that, these characters are still relevant to the game, sure. But by most people's standards, they kind of have fallen out of touch, right? YaoYao is a character that kind of just takes a game by storm. What I mean by that is, for the last, I don't know, what, year and a half to almost 2 years, it just seems like that 4-star characters aren't something you can get away with just with a free-to-play weapon at C0 and barely built up. But YaoYao, C0, free-to-play weapon, barely built up, is a very high-functioning character. And you see, this is where I'm kind of at a loss for words, because Alhaitham is already a C0 free-to-play unit. And then we have YaoYao, who's also a C0 free-to-play unit. But I guess we should have known looking at the character banner, right? Like, let's go take a look at the character banner right here. When they throw some specialized characters like Yunjin and Jinyan on the banner, you would expect the other 2 characters to have to carry the banner, right? It's just how it is. If they had like Bennett here, and then they also had someone crazy like Xingqiu over here, you would expect these 2 characters to be not as good as they are. Because they are not good, Bennett and Xingqiu are placed there to kind of help carry the banners a little bit, right? So when we see stuff like this, we should assume already that these 2 characters are good. And like I feel like the Lunar New Year, first and foremost, every time it comes around, it seems like YaoYao gives us some freebies. And in this case, YaoYao is the freebie along with Alhaitham, but really YaoYao for most free-to-play players, and I'll explain why right now. Okay, when it comes to elemental teams, especially dendro teams right now, that if you don't have Nahida, which a good number of you guys likely don't because you join the game after the Nahida craze, which is understandable, and you likely are missing a dendro applicator. And right now, in every single team, doesn't matter what team you play in Genshin Impact, it's either having a shielder or having a healer, right? It's very difficult to get away with having none of either of them. They do exist. Those teams are usually hyper focused on burst rotations, using the burst to iframe lethal hits and kind of just blitzing the enemy with raw damage. They exist, but most free-to-plays cannot build those kind of teams. Even if you like blitz your fingers away, you're still not really going anywhere because you just don't have the raw stats to back up that kind of damage, right, and playstyle. So that means when you build a team, this is a rule pretty much, you always have to have either a shielder or a healer. For 99% of the players playing this game, that is the rule. Of course, there are exceptions, right? YaoYao being a dendro healer, first of her kind, and especially dendro, being a healer in the element that is so predominantly reaction focused is invaluable. And on top of that, it is ever so important as well that she also has application. It is not enough to just heal. Understand this. Having a dendro character, especially a dendro healer, it is simply not enough anymore for you to just heal your team and deal no application. The beauty of YaoYao is that not only does she have dendro application, she also heals, and at the same time she heals a very respectable amount even at low investment. So my YaoYao is sitting at level 70 with very like half-assed artifacts, and she's healing for a very respectable amount. Now, is it Kokomi level healing? No. Is it Bennett level healing? No. But you have to understand, YaoYao is an applicator slash healer. Now, I don't know how far along you guys are in the game, but an applicator healer is some of the most sought after units in the game, and they are very far and few in between. I'll give you guys 3 seconds to name another character in Genshin Impact who is also an applicator and a healer at the same time. 3, 2, 1, Kokomi. Right, Kokomi is a character who is in Hydro category. She also applies Hydro while healing immensely for the rest of her team. And I'm telling you guys right now that for elements such as Dendro and Hydro, if you have a healer in this category and you cannot provide off-field passive elemental application while healing your team, the character can never really live up to their true potential. Now, the thing with YaoYao, I'm sure most of you guys kind of feel this. If you can play her, you'd be like, okay, she's a very solid character. But that is the reason why she's a very solid character. Now, some of her cons, such as like having a high burst energy cost, is easily fixed if you just play around with substats and her weapon, right? Like I figured that around 190, maybe 200 is a very comfortable spot to sit at, which means some of you guys might have to run energy weapon as well as energy sands if you want to get to that energy level, right? But you also have to balance around HP percentage as well as healing bonus for her circling. If you guys are face tanking every single hit from the enemy, you may run into some issues such as like, well, okay, I'm just getting completely smashed because the enemy is basically one-shotting you. Her healing is very frequent, but it doesn't heal for huge chunks, but it heals very fast and frequently. Okay, so that's the thing with YaoYao. Now, going forward, this is something we have to talk about when it comes to the future of Genshin Impact. So if you made it to this point, prior to this is mostly facts. After this, it's the juicy part because we're getting into some guessing, right? The next character who likely will be air quote revolutionary in Genshin Impact. So think Kazuha, think Yelan, right? Basically the character that gets released right before we move on to the Fontaine, the 4.0 stuff. So HoYoverse uses it as like the last ditch FOMO attempt to get you to spend some money before Sumeru kind of blows by, is likely, in my opinion, going to be the 5-star version of YaoYao. It just has to be, because right now, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I've been praising YaoYao so much, but really the essence of what I'm trying to say is we need a Dendro character in the healing position that can apply Dendro as well as heal the team. It is that simple. It is simply that simple. YaoYao already achieves that, but imagine a 5-star version, basically a more efficient YaoYao. Heals more, likely heals better, maybe adds more buffing to the rest of the team, maybe amplifies some damage, but that is likely what will come. I don't know, 3.7, 8, 9. I don't know what patches before 4.0. And it's important because right now having Nahida on your team is basically essential for running some of the best in slot options in Sumeru. We need another character to bear that burden. Right now, YaoYao, like you guys see on screen, Hytham, Yelan, YaoYao, Raiden Shogun. You can replace Yelan with Xingqiu, you can replace Raiden Shogun with Fischl, and there you have a pretty free-to-play team plus a Hytham, right? But the thing is, you can't be running Nahida with both sides of your abyss. YaoYao is a much needed addition into Genshin Impact, especially for the dendro category, and I do believe maybe Baizhu will be the 5-star counterpart to YaoYao, which will finally then open up completely the dendro options, making sure that Nahida is not so sought after and so crucial in the success of your dendro teams. I mean, FOMO is one thing, making people regret not picking her up is one thing, but making newer players come in and just feel like there's nothing really to do or build around is a terrible design philosophy when it comes to welcoming your new players. And we all know YaoYoverse is just gunning after the new players. If you're a new player, just know that this game is very new player friendly right now, especially in the Lantern Festival patch with all the freebies going on, right? I believe you guys still have like 13 days or so to get all this free stuff, and it takes no longer than a day, no longer than a couple hours if you're hardcore to run through all the quests and do all the stuff. So people, appreciate YaoYao, build YaoYao if you're new. I think even if you don't have a Hytham, you should pick up a YaoYao. Even if you have Nahida, you should pick up a YaoYao. Even if you don't have a Nahida, even more reason to pick up YaoYao. And then eventually see if you need Baizhu. That's all I gotta say, right? Congratulations to people who pulled multiple constellations of YaoYao, because her cons are pretty decent as well. Not like mind-bendingly amazing, but really, really good if you do have them. What a great patch. We're gonna be talking about some spicy stuff in tomorrow's live stream, so if you made it to this part of the video, alright, I'll see you guys in the live stream tomorrow. Till then, urge you to stay safe. Peace, peace. Bye-bye.